The rope creaked in the dry wind. Jesse Hale sat astride his mare at the edge of Dry Creek, watching 5 men drag a woman toward the hanging tree. Dust turned the sunset blood red. The woman's hands were bound behind her back, her buckskin dress torn at the shoulder. Even from 30 yards out, Jesse could see she stood a head taller than most of the soldiers surrounding her. Captain Rudd barked orders. His men tightened the noose. Jesse had come for supplies. Nothing more. The town was 2 miles back, and this crossroad had been empty an hour ago. Now it hosted an execution. Wait, Jesse's voice cut through the evening heat. Rudd turned. His face was sun-scorched leather, eyes like chips of flint. This doesn't concern you, Hale. You're hanging someone without trial. Apache raiders don't get trials. Rudd spat into the dirt. This one led the pack that hit your father's herds last spring. Killed 2 of his men. You should be thanking me. Jesse's jaw tightened. His father had lost cattle that year. Good men had died. But something felt wrong about the scene before him. The woman hadn't spoken, hadn't struggled. She stood beneath the tree, with her chin raised, watching the horizon, like she was already somewhere else. Law says she gets a hearing. Rudd laughed. Law's 100 miles away. We're the law out here. Not yet you're not. The captain's hand moved to his sidearm. His men spread out, forming a loose semicircle. Jesse counted 5 rifles, all pointed his direction now. His own Winchester stayed in its scabbard. He raised both hands slowly. I'm not drawing, just asking you to wait 3 days. Bring her to Fort Grant. Let a judge decide. Can't spare the time or the men. Rudd nodded to his corporal. String her up. 2 soldiers forced the woman onto an overturned crate. The noose went over her head. She finally looked at Jesse, then. Her eyes were black and bottomless, and they held no fear. Only a question. Jesse made his choice. He spurred his mare forward, drawing his knife in one motion. The soldiers shouted. A rifle cracked. Jesse felt the bullet pass, close enough to hear it whisper. He leaned low in the saddle, blade flashing as he cut the rope above the woman's head. She dropped. Jesse grabbed her bound wrists and hauled her across his horse's withers. The mare wheeled and bolted. More gunfire. Jesse rode hard for the canyon mouth, the woman bouncing against his horse's shoulder like a sack of grain. Behind them, Rudd was screaming orders to mount up and give chase. The canyon swallowed them in shadow. The cabin sat 3 hours north, hidden in a fold of rock where Jesse's father used to rest cattle during summer drives. Jesse had ridden these trails since childhood. He knew every turn, every loose stone. The soldiers didn't. By the time he reached the cabin, full dark had fallen. The woman hadn't moved or spoken since he'd cut her down. Jesse dismounted and checked her pulse. Still alive. Barely. He carried her inside and laid her on the cot. Her neck was already purple from the rope. When he cut the bindings on her wrists, her hands flopped loose like dead birds. Jesse lit a lamp. In the yellow glow, he could see her clearly for the first time. Mid-20s, maybe. Tall. Shoulders like a man's. Her face was all sharp angles, beautiful in a way that had nothing soft about it. A warrior's face. He fetched water and clean cloth. Washed the rope burn. Applied salve. Her breathing was shallow but steady. He covered her with a blanket and sat back against the wall, suddenly exhausted. What had he done? He'd just saved the life of an Apache raider. A woman who might have killed men he knew. His father's stories came back to him now. The ambush at Red Rock. Cattle scattered across 10 miles of desert. Tom Greeley shot through the chest. Martin Brooks with an arrow in his back. They'd said the raiders were led by a woman. A tall one. Fearless. Jesse looked at the figure on the cot. She could be anyone, or she could be exactly who Rudd said she was. He should have kept riding. Outside, a coyote howled. Jesse checked his rifle and settled into wait. She woke at dawn. Jesse was heating coffee over the stove when her eyes opened. She didn't gasp or jerk upright, just turned her head and studied him with the same steady gaze she'd given him at the hanging tree. Water, she said. Her voice was raw. He brought the canteen. She drank carefully, testing her throat, then handed it back. Why did you cut me down? Seemed like the thing to do? That's no answer. Jesse poured coffee into a tin cup. Mob justice doesn't sit right with me. You deserved a trial. A trial? She made a sound that might have been a laugh. What crime did they say I committed? Cattle raiding, murder. And you believe that? I don't know what I believe. Jesse set the cup on the table. Who are you? She pushed herself upright slowly, one hand on her throat. The blanket fell away. Beneath it, her dress was torn and stained with trail dust. She met his eyes without flinching. Siona. The name hit Jesse like cold water. He'd heard it before. His father had spoken it the night before he died, delirious with fever, warning Jesse about the tall Apache woman who led raids from the high country. I know that name. I thought you might. Siona studied him. You're Hale's son. The rancher who lost cattle last spring. That's right. So why save me? You tell me. Jesse leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Did you lead those raids? Yes. The admission hung in the air between them. Jesse felt his jaw clench. He had expected denial, some kind of defense. Instead, she just watched him, waiting for his reaction. Why? Because your father's men killed my brother. Siona's voice was flat. Shot him in the back while he was fishing in the creek. They said he was trespassing. That's not how I heard it. I'm sure it's not. She stood slowly, testing her balance. Even weakened, she was imposing. 6 feet tall at least, with a presence that filled the small cabin. You heard what they wanted you to hear. Dead Apache, cattle thief, dangerous savage, convenient story. Jesse shook his head. My father wouldn't have killed someone for fishing. Your father followed orders. Just like you're supposed to. Siona moved to the window, looking out at the canyon. Tell me something. Who gave those orders? Who wanted Apache lands cleared? The territory government? They're trying to protect settlers. The railroad. Siona turned back to him. They want mineral rights. Apache lands sit on copper deposits worth millions. But you can't mine what you don't own, and you can't own what's already claimed. So you make the current owners disappear. Call it protection. Call it progress. Jesse wanted to argue. The words felt like lies even as he tried to shape them. His father had worked with the Railroad Consortium, had helped survey lands, had assured Jesse it was all legitimate, all sanctioned by territory law. You have proof? Siona reached into her dress and pulled out a folded paper. The motion made her wince. She crossed to Jesse and handed it over. It was a military dispatch. Jesse recognized Captain Rudd's signature at the bottom. The orders were clear. Clear Apache villages from disputed territory. Use force as necessary. Prioritize areas marked on the attached survey map. The survey map showed mineral deposits. Where did you get this? Off a dead soldier. Siona sat back down on the cot. After they burned my village. After they shot the elders who couldn't run fast enough. I took it from the lieutenant who gave the order. Before I put an arrow through his throat. Jesse read the dispatch again. The words didn't change. He'd believed his father was protecting their land, protecting their way of life. But the paper in his hands told a different story. This can't be right. It's dated 3 months before your father's cattle were raided. Siona's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry about your father, but he died helping men like Rudd steal land. Whether he knew it or not, Jesse folded the paper carefully. His hands were steady, but his mind was reeling. Everything he'd believed about the conflict, about the raids, about the brave soldiers protecting civilization from savage raiders, all of it built on lies. Why didn't you tell them this? At the hanging? You think they'd have listened? Siona leaned back against the wall. They needed a villain. I was convenient. Tall Apache woman, easy to blame, easy to hang. Story ends, land gets cleared, railroad moves in. Everyone's happy. Except you. Except my people. Jesse moved to the stove, suddenly needing something to do with his hands. He poured more coffee. Offered a cup to Siona. She took it. "Thank you," she said, "for cutting the rope. You didn't have to. Couldn't let them hang you without trial. Even though you thought I'd killed men you knew." Even then, Siona sipped her coffee. "You're nothing like your father. Maybe that's not a compliment. It wasn't meant to be one." She smiled slightly. "But it's better than the alternative." They spent 2 days in the cabin. Jesse tended Siona's wounds. The rope burn on her neck faded from purple to yellow-green. Her voice grew stronger. They talked in fragments, circling each other like wary dogs testing for truth. She told him about the raids. Not the version Captain Rudd had spread, but the real story. Apache warriors striking back at soldiers who'd burned villages. Taking cattle because the government had seized their hunting grounds. Fighting because the alternative was slow death on a reservation. Jesse told her about his father, the good man he'd believed him to be, the stories of building this ranch from nothing, the pride in creating something lasting, and slowly, reluctantly, his growing suspicion that his father had known more than he'd admitted. "He changed," Jesse said on the second evening. "Last year or so, wouldn't look me in the eye, drank more. Kept riding out to meet with Rudd and the railroad men." "Guilt," Siona said simply. "Maybe. Definitely." She was sitting at the table, cleaning Jesse's spare rifle. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. "He knew what was happening. Couldn't stop it. Couldn't face you. So he drank and he kept his head down, and he hoped the problem would go away." "That's harsh. That's human." Siona looked up. "I don't hate your father, Jesse. I hated what he represented, what he helped build. But the man himself? Just another person caught in something bigger than he could handle." Jesse stared into his coffee cup. "They'll come looking for you, for us. I know. We should move? Head deeper into the mountains. Or we could stay." Siona set down the rifle. "Let them come. Make them hear the truth. They won't listen. Then we make them." Jesse met her eyes. There was steel there. Not anger, exactly. Something colder and more permanent. The look of someone who'd lost everything and had nothing left to fear. "That's suicide." "Maybe." Siona stood and moved to the window. "But I'm tired of running. Tired of being the villain in their story. If I'm going to die, I want it to mean something." Before Jesse could respond, horses whinnied in the distance. He was at the window in 2 strides, peering through the gap in the shutters. 6 riders, military uniforms, Captain Rudd in the lead. "They found us," Jesse said. Siona was already loading the rifle. "Good." Jesse stepped onto the porch alone. The soldiers spread out in a loose line, rifles ready. Captain Rudd dismounted slowly, hand on his pistol. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the clearing. "Holly, you've made a hell of a mistake. I know the truth, Rudd." Jesse kept his voice level. "About the mineral rights. The land seizures. All of it." Rudd's expression didn't change. So that woman's not a raider. She's defending her home." "Her home," Rudd spat the words. "This whole territory is America's home now. She's in the way. You're in the way. That's all the truth that matters. The dispatch says different. The orders to clear villages. The survey maps. You murdered people for copper deposits. I followed orders." Rudd drew his pistol. "Orders that came from men who see further than you ever will. This land's going to be civilized whether the Apache like it or not. Whether you like it or not. And my father? Your father understood progress has a cost." Rudd cocked the hammer. He made his peace with it. "Too bad you can't do the same. I have proof." "Proof?" Rudd laughed. "Who's going to believe you? A rancher gone soft over a savage? You'll be lucky if they don't hang you next to her." Jesse saw Rudd's finger tighten on the trigger. Time slowed. He started to dive left. The cabin window shattered. Siona's rifle cracked once. Rudd jerked backward, a red flower blooming on his chest. He hit the ground and didn't move. The soldiers opened fire. Jesse rolled behind a water trough. Bullets thudded into wood. He drew his pistol and returned fire, dropping 1 soldier from his horse. Siona was shooting from the window, methodical and precise. Another soldier fell. The remaining men scattered, seeking cover behind rocks and trees. Jesse reloaded, counted heads. 4 soldiers left, plus whatever reinforcements might be coming. The cabin won't hold. Siona shouted. She was right. Already smoke was rising from the roof. One of the soldiers had thrown a torch. The dry wood caught fast. Jesse ran for the cabin door. Bullets chased him. Inside, flames were spreading across the ceiling. Siona had abandoned the window and was gathering ammunition. Back door, Jesse said. They burst through into the canyon, smoke billowing behind them. A soldier was waiting. Jesse shot him twice. The man dropped his rifle and clutched his stomach, sinking to his knees. More gunfire from the front. The remaining soldiers were circling around. Jesse and Siona ran for the rocks, boots sliding on loose shale. A bullet caught Siona in the side. She stumbled but kept moving. They reached an outcropping and ducked behind it. Blood was spreading across Siona's dress. Jesse tore a strip from his shirt and pressed it against the wound. How bad? Bad enough. She was breathing hard. But not done yet. 2 soldiers appeared at the canyon mouth. Jesse raised his pistol, but Siona was faster. Her rifle barked twice. Both men fell. Silence settled over the canyon. Smoke from the burning cabin rose black against the sky. Jesse counted bodies. 6 soldiers down. Rudd dead. No more movement. Is that all of them? Siona asked. I think so. Good. She slumped against the rock. Her face was pale. Because I'm out of fight. Jesse examined the wound. The bullet had gone through clean, missing anything vital, but she'd lost blood. Too much blood. We need to move. Get you somewhere safe. Safe, Siona laughed weakly. That's not a place I know. Trust me. She looked at him for a long moment. Then nodded. Dawn found them 5 miles north, at the edge of Apache territory. Jesse had bound Siona's wound properly and gotten her on to his horse. They'd ridden through the night, following game trails only the Apache used. Now they sat on a ridge overlooking a valley where smoke rose from distant cooking fires. Your people? Jesse asked. What's left of them? Siona was stronger now. The bleeding had stopped. Color was returning to her face. She sat straight in the saddle, looking at the valley with something like longing. I can't go back with you, Jesse said. They'll have questions. I know. She turned to him. What will you do? Tell the truth. Show them the dispatch. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe Rudd was right and nobody will listen. But I have to try. You'll lose everything. Your ranch, your reputation. Maybe your life. Probably. Jesse managed a tired smile. But keeping quiet feels worse. Siona reached out and gripped his shoulder. Her hand was strong despite her injury. You're a good man, Jesse Hale. Better than this territory deserves. Just doing what's right. That's what makes you good. She released him and turned her horse toward the valley. Then paused. If you survive what's coming, if you ever need a place to hide, come north. Follow the creek with the white stones. My people will know you. I'll remember. Siona rode down the slope without looking back. Jesse watched until she disappeared into the trees. Then he turned south, toward civilization, toward whatever justice or judgment waited for him there. Behind him, smoke still rose from the burning cabin. Ahead, the sun was climbing over distant mountains, painting the desert in shades of gold and red. A new day. A new truth. Jesse touched his heels to his mare's flanks and rode toward it. The dispatch was still folded in his pocket, heavy as a gravestone, light as freedom. Truth would have its day, even if lies had a 1,000-year head start.